Hello everyone, in today's episode we sit down and talk to Chris Joyce. Chris Joyce is the founder/owner of the Woodmans Arms, a small independent restaurant which, despite only being open for a few years, has went on to win national awards, and it was even voted for as one of the most popular restaurants within Newcastle. Chris and the Woodmans has also played a massive part in my own development over the past few years, giving me the chance to meet and even talk to a load of interesting people, as well as the opportunity to work amongst such an amazingly hard-working team. It is for this reason why I'm so excited to have Chris on as our first guest. With all that out of the way, let's roll the intro music. Yeah.
Oh, we're cooking on
That's
gas.
ready.
We're live, everybody.
Right, hello. Episode 1, Chris Joyce.
Are you allowed to drink on a podcast? Are you not meant to?
Yeah, since we don't literally have the microphones this close, it means that they won't hear
As
me.
long as I don't slurp.
I know, as long as you don't go
Yeah, but to
literally
be,
over directly.
to be
then
fair,
it'll
I've got to. I'm used. I always slurp a tea if I drink a tea. Right, I'll not drink it. I'll try my best not to drink it.
Right, anyway, so we'll start with when you were going to uni. So you went to the University of Sunderland.
Yeah.
What were you doing then?
So growing up, I always wanted to be a PE teacher. Me PE teacher at school was called Mr. Pickersgill, and he was probably me idol at the time. He was such a great guy, and I always remember this one speech that it was only a tiny little speech that he gave, but it was like in class one morning because he was my form tutor at the same time. And this lad had been like messing on, he'd been naughty, the head teacher had sent for him and he'd been on detention and stuff like that. And then Mr. Pickersgill just flipped his lid. He was like, I'm sure he was called Daniel. He was like, Daniel, do you just want to piss your life up the wall, you know, like, and he was like saying, do you not want to have a nice car? Do you not want to have a nice house? Do you not want to do things? Do you not want to go on holiday? And he that was the first time we'd ever seen, because he was a new teacher at the time, so we'd started at like year 7 with him and went all the way through year 11. But in year 7, that was his first teaching job ever. So this rant came about when we were in year 9. So it was like the first time we'd ever seen him.
Seen him like sort of crack in a way.
Yeah. So when he cracked, we were all just like, and then so he absolutely flipped his lid, kicking off with Daniel. And then all out of that conversation, 2 things stood out to me. The first one was when he said, "Do you not want to drive a nice car?" And then I was like, put my hand up. I was like, "Sir, you drive a VW Golf?" And he was like, "That's not the point, Chris. It's a car." But the second thing that came out was just how passionate he was about like having do you know what I mean? Like being in control of what you wanted to do. And that was like the first point. I was like, do you know what I mean? Because because I'd never seen him so passionate. I was like thinking, God, like he really wants her to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like having that. So for me, seeing him get passionate about it and wanting them all to do well, I was like thinking, God, he really wants us to do well. So for the next sort of 2.5 years, I mean, I was never naughty at school, but I was definitely cheeky. You know, I used to get on well with the teachers, and some teachers obviously I didn't get on with. Sorry, Mrs. Halliday, I know you hate us.
If you're listening, Mrs. Halliday. But yeah, So then
I wanted to be a PE teacher off Mr. Pickersgill. I thought, oh well, I want to be a PE teacher. So the idea was do my GCSEs, went to college, went to Gateshead College, but Gateshead Sports College was so hard. It was like so difficult. Like my 2 best friends, Wayne and Raju, they went to South Tyneside College. So what was happening at South Tyneside College was you could just do your assignments in lesson. So like they didn't have any homework because they were completing all the assignments in lesson.
They're just doing everything they need to do then. And then
yeah, whereas at Gateshead Sports College, it was like you got taught at college, and then the assignments
you had to do in your own time.
So like for a year, every day I was like, for a year, Wayne and Raju were like, "Oh, BR, what you doing? Oh, we're just going out. We're going down to the beach." I'm like, "Have you not got assignments to do?" They're like, "No, we'll do that at college." And I was like, "That can't be fair." So halfway through me Gateshead, 2 years, a year into it, I thought, "Fuck this! I'm going over to South Tyneside College." So I went and joined South Tyneside College, and it was like the easiest year of my life.
Yeah.
It was just like, if you had to work like 100% at Gateshead to get the exact same results, because at that time it was the exact same result, you know,
Get
just
the
in a
exact
different
same sort of qualification.
yeah, just a different environment. So anyway, went to South Tyneside, got the grades, went to university. I remember me and Raju we both wanted to go to Leeds Uni, so we went down and checked in. I actually did really well. I got like distinction, got loads of good scores. We both went to go to Leeds Uni, drove down in my little Vauxhall Corsa. It had a padlock on the boot, because I remember buying it. It cost us £350 a car, and it like lasted us. I'd never took it on the motorway before trying to drive to Leeds Uni, and the steering wheel used to like start juddering when it got to 70 mile an hour. But that's just because I had two Baldy tyres. But that's another story. So anyway, we drove down to Leeds, got to Leeds Uni to have a look around the open day, and it was the queue to get in was massive. So me and Raju were just like, yeah, fuck this, we're going back. Got in the car and went back. Ended up going to Sunderland Uni. I think from that moment in time, because I just got to the uni and then turned back, I think I was destined never to really do well at university. Because everybody else around was like taking it dead seriously.
Yeah, where everyone was like, oh, we'll have a look at this, make sure this is the right choice and stuff like that, whereas you were just sort of like got there and were like, no.
Yeah.
I went back. So then you ended up going to Sunderland Uni, or University of Sunderland, sorry.
Yeah.
And then what did you end up doing?
Course-wise, did sports science.
And then how long? Because I know that
it was solid, but it was solid. Yeah. Do you know, like you can imagine? I think looking back, you know why Gateshead College were doing the things that they were doing, just because
to prepare you for that next level rather than just getting you in like the entry level.
Yeah, exactly. So they were preparing you to do well at university. They weren't just saying, "Yeah, there's a qualification, crack on." They were saying, "Well, this is what's going to happen in university. You need to be ready." So we got to uni, and it was just like, for me, I mean, I did a present. I thought I loved the body and loved sport and stuff like that. I had to do a presentation on the knee. The presentation had to last like 30 minutes.
On the knee?
On the knee. And I was like, a whole presentation on the knee. And I was like, I never used to get anxious. I was like dead confident and didn't usually worry about anything. But I think because obviously when you're growing up during secondary school and then you go to college, but at university, that was like, oh, it's serious, this. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's people... because there was a varied age range. I remember there was a guy who was like in our class, he was like 38.
Yeah. You
know, so like there was people there dead serious. There was people who wanted to go on and have real careers in sports. So when I had to do that presentation on the knee, it was like, how much information can you actually talk about the knee before I put people to sleep? So I was dead nervous, dead anxious, and then that sort of feeling just surrounded everything that I did at university.
Yeah.
So I just sort of clung on to like that nervous, anxious feeling, and I was like thinking, like, I want to be a PE teacher, but at the time, I mean, I wasn't aware of, you know, like when you become aware of your mind and how to look after it later on in life, and we could maybe talk about that later on, but at the time, I just knew, I was like thinking, I can't. Surely this isn't right to feel like this every day. Do you know, like
just to feel sort of like that way.
Yeah, like feeling anxious about, or feeling like nearly sick about going to university. So I was like, this can't be right. Like, surely this isn't life. So I then, 6 weeks into university, me and my best friend Wayne were like sat on a computer, and we're meant to be doing an assignment. I think the lecturer was called Claire. We're meant to be doing a report for Claire, and it was due at 10 to 4. It was due at 4 o'clock, sorry. And at 10 to 4, me and Wayne are like sitting away on the computer. But if you can imagine my best friend Wayne, he's like, he wasn't computer literate. So I would be like, know how to use Excel and do graphs. Mm-hmm. So I'd be flying with the assignment, where Wayne would just be every 5 minutes going, how'd you do that? How'd you put that in a graph? So I'd be like trying to do my assignment and babysit Wayne at the same time. Anyway, someone came up to her about 10 to 4 and said, oh, what's that you're doing? I was like, oh, it's the assignment for Claire. They're like, oh, you're doing the wrong one. I was like, what? You're doing the wrong one. So I was like, Wayne, we're doing the wrong fucking assignment. Yeah. I was like, what we're going to do? And then he went, I don't know. And I just went, yeah. And I logged out the computer, stood up, and I was like, I'm never coming back to university, Wayne. I said this. I went, this is the last time I'm logging out this computer. I said, I'm never coming back. And then Wayne just looked at us and he went, fucking I'm coming away.
Really?
So we both literally just quit that day.
Just because, like, sort of, not because of that, but sort of the build-up, and then that was just the decision that was just, like, the sort of, the final nail in the coffin.
I mean, probably I should have really stuck it out a little bit longer, but there was that year was the last year where the fees were like, I think £3,000 a year. I think and then all of a sudden the next year it shot up to like £9,000.
Yeah, because I think at the moment it's £9,250 per year.
Is it?
Insane. So then what did you end up doing instead of that? So like once you like sort of decided you dropped out and stuff like that, where did you end up going next? What did you end up doing?
Well, for 3 months we had to pretend that we're still at university, so Wayne's dad didn't bray him all over. So for 3 months we actually used to leave Wayne's house, because I used to pick him up and take him to university, because I don't think he drove at the time. No, he didn't drive at the time. So I used to pick him up every day. So every day I'd pick him up, and then we'd just go out for a couple of hours, probably go to Nando's, go and eat, and then we'd just randomly just wander about, and then we'd make sure we're back in the house, so that Wayne's dad thought that we'd been to uni.
All day.
And about 3 months into it, I was like, yeah, Wayne, we need to come clean here and just tell your dad that we're not at university anymore. So I remember we were lying on the bed. Wayne was playing on his Xbox, like, we're just lying on his bed. That sounds like we're in a relationship.
No, but I mean, like,
we're just lying on the bed. And Wayne's dad came in, and he said, he was like, looked at his watch, and he went, what you doing on? I was like, look, Wayne, we need to come clean. And he was like, oh, Ed, what's up? And I said, look, we've quit university. And he just laughed. He just went, he started swearing. And I fucking knew you would, you fucking knobhead. And then walked out the bedroom, and that was it. And then I said, Wayne, I was like, oh, we've done well there. We've got off lightly. Like, I thought he was going to kick off, but he didn't.
Full on, like, just...
But then I left uni, and then I got a job. I was already working part-time for a company, and so this is really where the pub industry thing started for me. So I started back when I was 16 as a glass collector in a nightclub in South Shields, and it was called Dusk. And it still is the hardest job I've ever done. Like, honestly, it was like solid. Like, it talked about like manual running about and lifting stuff up. It was so busy. You were working in the pitch black, you know, like you'd have the disco lights, you'd have your earplugs on, but it was so busy, and you used to have to just like a little rat scurry around the floor, you know, picking up as many glasses as you could, and then you would like double stack them, triple stack them, quadruple stack them, so you've got like big tumblers, and you'd have them stacked like all the way up, massive. Because what you didn't want to do is you didn't want to go to the other end of the nightclub and think, oh fuck, I've got to battle my way through all the way back. So you made your journey worthwhile and try to get as many glasses
as effective as you possibly could.
Yeah, and then by the time, so I was like, so I did that for about, well, I did it for 12 months. Yeah, I did it for 12 months, and then it was weird because back then you had a people respected the manager where you worked. Do you know what I mean? People thought he's the boss.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like an authoritative boss or like an angry boss, but because he was the boss.
Because he was like in that position of power.
Yeah, and then you were a glass collector, and then you were like, ooh, I'm on the bar next, and you were like excited about getting promoted onto the bar when you turned 18, and like it was like everybody was like, oh, you can't wait to get on the bar. And then when you're on the bar, I mean, again, it was a busy nightclub, so you're just constantly working hard all the time. So then I quickly went from the bar. So I went from glass collector to the bar, but then I was only on the bar for about a couple of months, and they offered us like a supervisor's job, which at the time was decent again because there was that good working environment where people wanted to progress, but people even if it was a part time, like there was a great like community among the staff. Everybody used to come in early. You know, if we started work at 10:30, we'd come in at 10 o'clock, we'd have McDonald's, we'd all sit and eat in the staff room. There was like great camaraderie amongst everybody, but that's because we all worked hard together. So then I became a supervisor, and then I think that would have been around about the time of like 2008, 2009 maybe. And obviously the recession happened, so the company had a completely mad reshuffle, got rid of loads of managers, I ended up managing this nightclub for about 3 months when I was 18. So imagine being 18 running a nightclub.
Yeah.
Like, I was absolutely buzzing. It was so busy. And then that was basically how I got my foot on, like, being a manager.
So that was a nightclub called Dusk, and then where did you end up going after that, or when did you sort of...
So I was basically running the nightclub as a manager as I was at university. So about 3 or 4 weeks into university, when they were having the reshuffle, the company said, we want you to go and be an assistant manager at the Rattler, which was a restaurant in South Shields. So I went and done that, and like, so in my mind I was thinking, I'll juggle working in the Rattler and university.
Yeah.
So because I think I had the Rattler to fall back on, that's why I just got up and walked out of university.
That's why you sort of had that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's why I just walked out. But I mean, great learning curve again. Like, feel like at the time when you're working hard and when you're doing things at the time, when you're like 17, 18, like, you can look around you and think, well, do I want to work as hard as the person I'm working next to? Like, or do I want to work harder? It doesn't mean that you're any sort of different. It doesn't mean that you're better than them or you can do things better than them. But at least if you work hard and your attitude's right, like you feel at the time, you think nothing's changing and nothing's happening. But then the more effort, the more sort of time you give something, like, things just start happening, you know. So like, I just ended up, before you knew it, I was like assistant manager at this restaurant. It was a busy restaurant. Well, busy at the time. We thought it was busy at the time. Looking back now, in terms of the numbers that we do now, the Woodmans, like, it was a quiet restaurant.
Yeah.
So I ended up working at the Rattler for probably about, well, it was only about a year and a half, because then the venue opened up another venue in Sunderland, and then I was then the general manager of that. So I opened that venue on my 21st birthday. So it was like a good... But bear in mind, I hadn't been given any training. It was like, yeah, Chris, they told us when I was 20, they were like, we're opening up this place in Sunderland. We've bought it for like 300 grand, whatever it was. We're spending another 300 grand on it. Like, it's the biggest site this company's ever owned. And they were like, we want you to go and run it. I thought, fuck me, he's winding us up, yeah. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go and run that. Because I thought, like, the director at the time used to just come out and have a drink on a Friday, Saturday night. So he told us that when he'd had a drink, he was like, between me and you, don't tell anybody. So then later on, I was like, nah, he's winding us up, him. But then it turned out, that actually did happen. And I just remember there was loads of stuff going on, because obviously it's only an independent company, and the recession and stuff had been, so it was a massive risk for them to even just think about opening up a site. But then to drop me in and say, you're going to go and run it. I remember doing cocktail training, and I was like, fuck me, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Yeah, do you know what? Like, I genuinely, like, I knew how to make cocktails, but in terms of like trying to lead a group of people,
trying to like teach other people on how to do it, rather than just sort of being in the zone where you're like, literally,
I mean, you have to instill confidence in them so that they think, do you know what it is? I'm going to do well for this guy. You know, I'm going to work hard. So I remember thinking, I felt dead uneasy, bit nervous, and I mean, it was massive. We opened on St Patrick's Day weekend, because St Patrick's Day weekend that year was about the 19th of March, and then my birthday was the 31st of March, so it opened when I was 20. And I remember we took about 19 grand in a day. It was, honestly, it was rammed. It was like just shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, like just beer just constantly coming out. There was live music, it was bouncing, like, and I just remember thinking, like, nobody's actually sat us down. Do you know what I mean?
And sort of taught you, like, this is how you should do it, and this is how you need to sort of...
Yeah, but so many people use that as an excuse for failing, where I used to just crack on and think, well, it's tough now, it's going to get easier at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's my little motto that I tell myself. It's just, at some point, life's got to get easier.
Yeah, it will all get easier eventually.
But it doesn't. It just, things change. So I remember like things did start to get easier, and things obviously quieted down, and then we got better staff. Well, not better staff, we got more staff and more experienced staff. But at the time, the director didn't really want what I wanted. Like I wanted to like promote things and do loads of exciting things. Do you know, like all the random stuff that we do here, and I mean this room that we're sat in now, it's a grain tank, it's a silo.
But yeah, so if you look around here, I mean you probably can't see the majority of it here, but we're actually sat in the grain tank at the Woodmans Arms, and just looking around all the random stuff that's in. Like literally just over on that wall there is a swan with a crown on it just coming out of the wall.
And then teapots with flowers coming out of it.
Teapots with flowers coming out of it. Loads of different stuff.
Yeah, so this is obviously meant to be used as a farmer to store grain. But so the director at the time just didn't want to do exciting stuff, which again, looking back, I can understand, because they've ran loads of businesses and they've probably had loads of cash at hand, and then went from having loads of cash to then zero cash.
And you didn't really want to have that risk, because if they sort of over time, if they've seen what works, then they're probably a bit apprehensive as to try all this, like all stuff like this, like the new exciting stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it goes down to, do you know, like you've got to try and like people are the most important part of your business. You know, so like no matter what business you're in, I can imagine everybody has, no matter how successful businesses are, it's the people that make the business. And at the time, I mean, that business, it just, I don't feel like it had the right people. It didn't have the right people in the office. You know, like we used to take our paperwork up on a Monday morning, and honestly, the woman in the office, she was like a witch. If your paperwork was like 10 pence out, it was like, she'd just sling it back, she'd throw it back at you and be like, go and do it again. Do you know what I mean? Like, in like a naughty schoolboy, you'd run off with your tail between your legs and like spend hours trying to work out what you've done wrong. You know, like you'd try and put it right. Because they were just in that routine, they didn't have the right feeling throughout the company. You know, so every manager felt the same way I did. You know, like they just felt like, I mean, yes, paperwork's important, but that isn't what gets customers in your building, you know. And if your managers aren't happy and they're not working hard on the right and putting the right energy in the right places, then it's never going to work, is it? Because the managers used to just any time the managers were together, all we used to talk about was how much we hated the woman in the office. And what she made you do this week? Oh, I had to do this. Oh, fuck me, I had to do that. And that's all you'd talk about. Whereas if you think as a company, like good companies, when people, like, it's hard enough getting people together to communicate, but when they do come together to communicate, they're talking about like positive things, aren't they?
Yeah.
How we're going to make this better.
Yeah. Yeah, just general stuff like that, where it's like, oh, how can we do this, or how can we do this, or like we can do this way, and stuff. Rather talking about ideas rather than sort of the person in the office, like you were saying.
Yeah, like imagine if you, every time that you met with your other colleagues who were doing the same role as you, if you could talk about positive things and say, this is how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But instead it was just like Monday morning, everybody dreaded it. The managers had to have a day off on a Tuesday, no questions asked. So then if you hadn't fixed your paperwork by Wednesday, you know, like you're halfway through the week now, like essentially your weekend starts in that trade. Your weekend starts on a Thursday. So all your deliveries would come on a Thursday. So you literally had half your Wednesday to either feel positive about the weekend, but you didn't know, because all that happened was that negative feeling that you had.
Yeah.
You just took that into what was essentially going to come. You know, you would just think, oh well, maybe we'll be busy, or we're going to be quiet. You know, like you were never like, there was no people pushing you to be upbeat. The only source of you being positive was yourself.
Yeah.
Finding some will somewhere to be like, come on, we'll make this work. So just quickly going on. So I ended up going from Life O'Reilly. I ended up then becoming like a mini sort of area manager. So I was in charge of like, basically the two Life O'Reillys, and Viva and Dusk at the time, but then we leased Dusk out, so it was like 2 Life Rileys and Viva. And Viva is just like the most fun I've ever had. Like, honestly, it was just so fun. I remember it was so busy. Like, it was what it was. It wasn't trying to be anything different, you know. You'd go in, you'd get a treble and a bomb for a £5. Like, it wasn't trying to be posh. It wasn't trying to be sophisticated. It was just like, come out, get pissed, have fun, and that's it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, no serious dancers or anything like that. Like, nout flash. And I remember I say stupidly, but like, there was a video where these young lads and lasses, basically, somebody opened the back door and let these young people in. So they're like 17, 18, let these people in the back door. And then I posted it on my Facebook, and then next couple of months, like, that back door just turned into the front door. Like, so many people were just running in the back. Honestly, we couldn't keep control. Like, the amount of people that they were like rats just flooding in.
Absolutely.
You just couldn't keep control of them. But the police were sort of happy. They just let us crack on. We didn't have any major issues. Like, we didn't do anything that we shouldn't have done. It was just like, there was just obviously underage people about. But not that I'm promoting underage drinking or anything like that. And then from Viva, like, it was turning over, good money, dead busy, but I just didn't feel like, so I would have been about 23 at this point, so I felt like I'd almost accomplished everything, not that I set out to accomplish, but I was like, well, there's nothing more I can do in this company that's going to make us happy, unless the director turns around and says, Chris, I'm going to give you loads of shares in the company, let's go on and promote this and take the company in a different direction and try and get even busier. But it wasn't. It was always just like, we need to save this, we need to save that. And the woman in the office, it was obviously, because there was no other managers, it was essentially just me and her. So it was like a level playing field now. So it was like, literally, her only route of communication to any part of any bar was me.
Yeah.
So it was like, hang on, it was like battle of you're negative, I'm positive, who's gonna win? And eventually I won, you know. So she ended up leaving the company later on, but it didn't really. But she left the company. So she left the company. But at the same time, I was just like, nothing's happening here. Do you know what I mean? We're not like looking after what we're trying to do. We're just trying to save money all the time.
Yeah.
So then when I was about 24, that's when I started thinking, right, well, I want to go off and do something like by myself. And then I just quit my job. I think quit my job when I was 20, coming up to 25. I think I quit. I quit just after my 25th birthday, and then I didn't have a job lined up. Quit my 25th. Just after my 25th birthday, quit. Didn't have a job. I was like sat around the house for a couple of days. Went and applied for a job at the Roker Hotel. Got it. And the guy who owns the Roker Hotel, like, don't get us wrong, he's dead nice, but he like, just like, one of those people you wouldn't want to upset.
Yeah.
So like, I got the job, and I went down, had an interview, blah 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 blah, got the bar manager's job. And then Master Debonair, I knew about Master Debonair, so Simon from Master Debonair, I like contacted him and said, oh look, I haven't got a job anymore, so is there any jobs? And then he was like, yeah, would love to have you on board. So then I had to ring the Roker Hotel and said, oh look, I've been offered a job elsewhere, so I can't take your job. So they were a little bit upset at the time. But then, so I went and worked for Master Debonair for a couple of months. I knew I was only going to be like, deep down I knew I wasn't going to be there long, because I knew I just wanted to get back into the pub trade. But for about 4 months I just enjoyed having Saturday nights off.
Yeah. So what was it like working at like Master Debonair?
Oh, it was mental. Like, it was like such a great company to work for, because obviously it's such a, like, unique brand in terms of how they've created the brand, but obviously what they're doing, like selling suits, isn't unique, but how they've dressed it up with everything else that they're doing.
Yeah,
like
their approach to it.
Yeah, their approach to it, the customer service, and just the style of everything is just, like amazing. So it was dead fun, and it was good. I learned loads of things, but like a duck the water. I mean, I always remember this guy drove down from Glasgow for a suit. He was like walked in the door. This big fella, he was like in his big Scottish accent. He's like, "All right, pal, is that Scottish?" Sort of Scottish. He's like, "I've came down from Glasgow for a suit, bloody." He was like, and he just pointed at the rail. He said, "This is the suit that I want." And I'd only been working there a couple of weeks, and I just picked off any suit that I thought fit. I was like, "He looks like a sort of 46 waistcoat, like a 48 jacket and whatever the trousers were." I picked them all up, give him it. He went in the change rooms, tried it on, came out. He went, "Yeah, that's spot on," and then he bought it and drove off. He was literally in the shop less than 5 minutes.
Literally just came in.
But that was obviously credit to how they had set that Master Debonair brand up. Like people were just driving from all over just to
go to there.
Yeah, because they'd seen it on Instagram and seen it on Facebook, and people want to be associated with good brands, and I think people want to be associated with good independent brands because they want to be able to tell their friends first, "Oh, this is exciting. You need to go there."
Or if someone compliments them on it, like say, "Oh, your suit looks nice," be like, "Oh yeah, I got it from Master Debonair," and like they'd be like, "Well, what's that?" And then they can they feel proud. They feel as if they're like personally involved with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's on this sort of small independent sort of scale.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you don't talk about independent brands the same way that you talk about
like Amazon and Facebook and stuff like that.
Completely different, isn't it? People like to tell people about independent brands, but then obviously nobody gets excited about Nando's. Everybody raves about it, but they don't have that gut feeling when they're talking about it.
They don't feel as if they're sort of personally involved with it. That they don't feel as if they're a part of something. They just feel as if they're just shopping there or like going there for.
Yeah, so I think going to Master Debonair was a great like little apprenticeship for me in terms of like slogging it out for the company that I'd been working for and then wanting to be a part of something where the people who own it are so passionate about what they do, so coming out of the other side and go even though it was a completely different industry, like I seen how passionate Eve and Simon were about it. So like I was like, that's what I want to be like that. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to work hard, but it doesn't want to feel like like when you work hard, but you don't dread going to work sort of thing.
Where you're sort of passionate and you know that sort of your work is meaningful in a way.
Yeah. So
like sort of you can see the direct impacts and you're just sort of really happy about happy with your job really.
I suppose, but I mean. Obviously, so leaving Master Debonair and then opening up the Woodmans Arms. So we opened up the Woodmans December that year. So I left Master Debonair about August, and then started to fit it out. But I mean, for about a month and a bit, we just potted about, didn't really do anything, and then eventually we ripped the carpet up. But actually, when we took the Woodmans on, we had to trade it for a couple of weeks. We meant to trade it for a month, but I remember instead of hiring loads of staff, we inherited a couple of staff, but we didn't hire loads. We didn't take loads over because everybody went off and worked elsewhere. So I had to give my mum a job. And I remember the first day, my mum was working in the kitchen and she rang us. She was like, "Chris, somebody's placed a food order." She was like, "But I can't find the cooker." I was like, "Mum, it's a pub kitchen." I was like, "There's got to be a cooker in there somewhere." She was like, "Honestly, I've looked everywhere. There's no cooker." I was like, "Mum, you're winding us up, yeah." I was like, "You make me drive all the way up there," because obviously from South Shields and Wickham's like a 40-minute drive. So anyway, I got all the way up here, and like there wasn't a single oven. So like, when people say you go and have like a pub meal and it's like microwaved, like they're not lying. I think it had 13 microwaves when we took the kitchen over, and not a single oven.
That's crazy.
So. And then a couple of days later, I had to do a shift in the kitchen, and I was chef for the day. I had about 12 attempts at this one pie because it had to cook it in something called a Merry Chef, which is like a nuclear powered bloody microwave. It's like microwave on steroids. Like you put anything in and it'll just blitz it. I kept putting this pie in, and it just was disintegrating. I thought, fuck me, I don't know what I'm doing here. So then. Couple of days later, that's when we shut the full pub for a refurb, and then we started refurbishing it, which was like, again, like difficult time. Like didn't have a lot of money to spend on it, so we just begged, borrowed, and stole everything that we possibly could. I remember going down to my mum's pub and just lynching anything I
remember
could.
she was telling us a story about it, how because she had, was it like, so the pub that she was at, she had one next door or something like that with like all the old stuff or all just stuff that she didn't need or something like that. So then you just hide it on the back of the van.
It was basically like, do you know Phoenix Nights? Have you seen Phoenix Nights where the guy comes in an overall and steals the TV?
Oh yeah, I think I've seen like a clip of it.
Peter Kay comes in, he goes, or Brian Potter comes in and goes, "Where's the TV?" And he says, "Well, 2 lads came and took it before. 2 lads have took me brand new TV and not one of you stopped them." "Well, yeah, they were wearing overalls." "Oh, wearing overalls?" So essentially, me and Lee went and done a job on the just took loads of furniture. They weren't using it anyway. The pub was about to close, I think. Took a couple of fryers, I think, as well. And then but that's having that mentality, you know. So a lot of the stuff was like second hand, or we built a garden shed, probably one of our most popular features in the pub. It's like just
the shed.
Yeah, the shed in the pub. It's just a shed made out of wood. You know, it wasn't very expensive to make, but it's just the idea and being mad enough to say we're going to put a shed in here.
Yeah.
So that was like fitting out, but I remember just like trying to organise like workmen to like big companies just have so much deep pockets that they can just get anything done.
Yeah, they can just be like, "Oh, we need a new the bathroom redone." Just literally.
I mean, we
money at it.
When I bought, so I thought I was being organised because I'm not the most organised of people. So I thought I was being organised, and I remember spending, because it was like the biggest sum of money that we'd spent like 18 grand on cookers, and I remember thinking, right, that's the biggest amount of, like, in one transaction, that was the biggest amount of money that was spent. And I remember being dead organised, so we're due to open in December, and the cookers got delivered at the start of November, and they're like brand new, shiny, all wrapped in cling film, and they just literally sat there for like a month. And then eventually I didn't realise, like, we're LPG gas here, so that means we're not connected to the mains. So essentially, trying to get somebody to fit commercial LPG equipment was just impossible. Honestly, it was absolutely impossible, and it was just a nightmare. I mean, I was like ringing around Checker Trade, everybody, trying to get somebody to fit this equipment, and it turns out the equipment that I bought was the wrong equipment. So I had bought equipment for natural gas when we actually needed equipment for LPG gas. And then we needed somebody to fit the LPG equipment, which we couldn't get.
We couldn't get because,
So the opening weekend, with VIP night on the Friday, we didn't have any gas. Don't ask us how we opened. I genuinely don't know.
How did you even pull that off?
Well, because eventually what happened was, just before we opened, some gas fitter came and put the equipment on the wall, essentially hooked it all up. And I remember the oven, I don't know if I've ever told you this story before, but the oven was like a flamethrower.
Oh yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I remember you
like, I remember putting my head in the kitchen once, and the chef would open the door, and it would like, this flame would just be bellowing out of the oven, and like Rob, I'm sure he was called Rob, the chef at the time, was like, "Whoa, fuck me!" Like literally hoying the meat in. And then, do you know the burner on the top, the 6 burner? Do you know it looks like a Bunsen burner? What you like cook with a pan on. I remember when the chef would turn that on, it would just be like a flamethrower as well.
Power of flame.
Just like pissing out fire, and I was like, yeah, something's not right here. So, what in hindsight, obviously, because I'd never opened up my own business and a learning curve at the time was obviously pay more money at the start to get a credible fitter to fit it. So where we bought the equipment from, he was like, "Chris, do you want me to fit it for like 900 quid? And at the time I was like, I've just spent 18 grand. 900 quid's a lot of money to get it fitted. Looking back, I should have just paid the £900.
Did it end up costing you more to get it redone? Or?
Well, essentially what happened was on the Friday morning, so the VIP night was on the Friday night. So we'd had gas for like a couple of days. But it was like flame-thrown gas. It's a tongue twister there. So I was like, this isn't safe, this. So then I rang the company. I was like, look, who supplied it? I forgot what his name was, but he was Scottish. And I said, you need to send somebody out here because something's not right. So basically this young lad turned up and he just put yellow tape over all the equipment and said, you can't use it. And he left.
And that's it.
And then, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, need gas. Came back on the Monday and he fixed it and made everything safe and done everything proper. But the opening weekend we didn't have any gas.
So then how did you manage, how did you sort of cook all this stuff and whatnot?
Haven't got a clue. So from the moment from all the gas getting turned on, I don't think I went in the kitchen until the gas was back on. I just stayed out the way of me.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. I mean, I was ill. The pressure we're under, we were under massive pressure to get that business off the ground. I mean, we genuinely had no money left. And you obviously you're opening up. You've got bills to pay and whatever, and staff. But in terms of numbers, I think we did about 80 on our first Sunday, 80 covers, which isn't bad. But
isn't bad for the first Sunday.
If you think how big the place is and how expensive it is to run, so that was the opening weekend, and I remember just feeling so upset and miserable all of the time, that sort of nothing was going right. It felt like nothing was going right for us, everything was going wrong. But looking back, it's obviously just situations that happen. It's just how you decide how you want to feel about it. That's all it is. I've learned now, anything that's on the outside of your body and you're not in control of it, guess what? You have a choice how you want to feel about it.
Yeah.
So if something's not going your way, that's absolutely fine, but it doesn't have to emotionally affect you or mentally affect you. You just choose not to take any interest in it, or you choose not to let that bother you.
Yeah.
I remember Fellside Road, every time I was driving the van to pick something up, there's a little ditch at the bottom of Fellside Road. I used to contemplate just driving off it. I was that upset. I used to think, I'm just going to drive off here right now. I would genuinely be just crying in the van because there was just so much pressure and everything was going wrong. And then obviously you think the hard part's over. Do you know when we said, you think the hard part's over? You thought the hard part was over, and then it gets even harder because now you're dealing with the public. You're dealing with actual human beings. Yeah. And we got the chef, the chef that we hired, we didn't, I didn't see a future with him, so we agreed to part ways. I think he was struggling as well, so it wasn't just a case of, look, I want you to leave. It was he was struggling with, because he had never been a head chef before. The person that we hired, he'd only been a sous chef or a second chef, and I thought it was a good opportunity for him to come on and prove himself and go on to be a head chef, but it just didn't work out. So I remember Paul, the head chef who we've got now. Yeah. He was only helping out in the kitchen because he had a really cush job at Kielder. He used to work 4 nights on and stay up there, and then have 3 days off. And I remember going in the kitchen and going, Paul, have you got a second? And I waved him out. I was like, Paul, have you got a second? And he came out. He was like, yeah, what's happening? I was like, do you want a job as a head chef? And he actually said no at first. He said no. He knocked me back, and went home. He thought about it for it was a week. Or
a week. You just sort of left you
I mean, we had enough people in the kitchen to potter on, but I remember some of the food was coming out. I mean, I remember sausages were getting sent back raw and stuff like that. I was like, do you know what I'm talking about? Driving off the edge of that cliff. I was like, oh God, because you put your trust in other people and you think they're going to deliver, but things were just going wrong.
So at that time, did you just not have a head chef?
Didn't have a head chef for about a week and a half. And it was again, the pressure of needing customers, I mean, it's just mental, think about where we were. I don't even know how we are right now. Do you know what I mean? How are we so busy right now? Since lockdown, we've done 6,631 covers. in 29 days.
That's insane.
I mean, I don't even know what the daily rate of that is, but 6,631 covers. We're probably doing about 200 covers a week if we're lucky. So anyway, Paul's wife, Christine, convinced them that, because they actually met each other.
Yeah, they met each other here, didn't they?
Yeah, years ago. And I think Paul used to actually be, he was either the head chef or the second chef, like years and years ago. So he was involved with this years ago as well. So I think we were lucky in the fact that his heart was already here.
Like he had emotional ties to the place.
Yeah, he was emotionally attached to this venue, which I didn't know that at the time. I was just like, Paul, you got a second? Do you want the job? He was like, oh, if you think he'd been a Kielder for like 14 years or something.
Yeah,
10
he had
years.
a nice thing set up and
imagine young Chris fucking, can it sort gas out? Can it do this? Can it do that? Young Chris just coming in the kitchen saying, Paul, do you know that cushy job that you get paid loads of money for doing? Do you want to leave it all, risk it all, and come and join this brand new kitchen, which you know already because you've been working in it, isn't functioning properly, you know? Because I think at that point he was ready to walk out, Paul, and didn't want to come back. You know, he was ready that morning. He was ready to go home and say, that's it, I'm done, I don't want to help you out. So imagine just leaving all of that and saying, do you know what it is, Chris? I am going to come work for you.
Why not?
And he did.
That's crazy.
And then that's where we just took off. I mean, he's a great, Paul could just absolutely go and change anybody's business in this industry. Like, he's just he's an absolute gem. And I know he's stubborn, but the fact that he's stubborn that's what delivers. Do you know what I mean? And it's all about processes for Paul. If the processes aren't right, it's almost like, you know, being organised and saying, right, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm going to do it, and then repeating that process. And if you keep repeating that process, things become easier. You know, so a bit like if whatever you do, you need to have a diary and you have to plan that diary. Like the kitchen's version of a diary would be the fridge, you know, or the freezer, the big walk-in freezer, so that you can see if the fridge and freezer's organised, you can see exactly what's going on. You know, you don't need to look anywhere else in the kitchen. You can just look in the fridge and the freezer. So that's where the process starts, and then we just went on from there. We obviously had Ricky. He massively helped along the way. You know, so how I met Ricky was actually in Bolden, believe it or not. I went out for some food. So because I left Master Debonair, we went to this Italian restaurant in Bolden, and Ricky was like mint. He was mint. He served with in the restaurant, and he was mint crack. I had obviously had a drink because it was a leaving party, but I was like, the service has been classed tonight. I was like, do you want a job? And he was like, where at? I said, oh, the Woodmans Arms. And he was like, I said to Ricky, where do you live? He said, oh, I'm from Bladen. Bear in mind, Bladen is like 10 minutes the other way. So if you've travelled from South Shields to Bladen, it would be 50 minutes. From South Shields to the Woodmans Arms, it would be 40 minutes. So I was like, this is fate.
Literally,
I was
like sort of everything aligned at that point.
I was like, you need to come to the Woodmans Arms. And then like, just he just like front of house wise, because he just had so much experience, just like loads of little tiny things that you don't realise but just make a massive difference.
Like little 1% improvements which add up to a massive thing.
And he just honestly, he just absolutely changed for it. He was like, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, it's something as simple as a bin. You need a bin next to that till, you know, so instead of having a bit of rubbish in your hand and you're wandering off all over, and then you just put, do you know what I mean? Just
tiny little things which, like, from a customer perspective, are massive sort of things. Like, say, if you could see, like, say, front of house, like, obviously, like, explaining this now probably won't make sense to anyone unless you work here. But, like, around next to the till, instead of having that bin there, travelling all the way around, just with rubbish in your hand and stuff like that, it just makes it so much, like, just even not having a bin there, just wouldn't.
Well, you're just saving the journey, aren't you? So I think, like, losing sight is like when you've got so much, you're trying to juggle all these balls, starting off a business, but you actually need to surround yourself with as many people as you possibly can who you trust and who are going to support
Yeah.
you. So like without Ricky, 100% we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now, because he was just like, just alleviated so much pressure. Do you know, like when you see like a pressurized tank and somebody just opens up a pipe and it just starts going psst, like that's what Ricky did that for about a year. But then obviously things that we weren't doing, but what we're trying to do was obviously mimic a good social media platform, and it was everything that we wanted to do was good environment, which we got right. So the pub felt amazing.
Yeah, like
you know,
when
we had the scent machine when you come in, which a lot of people, it's top secret. We still don't tell what that scent is. So the environment was great, and then the only thing that we wanted to get, the next two things, was obviously the product and the service. So we think that they're the same thing essentially. So the product's coming from the kitchen, but the service needs to match the product.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is like social media and building that brand. So all those three things together is what build a good brand. So if you get the environment right, the product and the service, and then you can show it off. So we wanted to try and mimic. Well, in my head, I wanted to try and mimic essentially what Master Debonair had created, but
in sort of the restaurant.
In the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
You know, so like, but we learned loads of things on the way. You know, like how we're taking pictures of the food.
Yeah.
If you go back to our Instagram at the very start, I die inside when I see it. I think, oh, what were we thinking? Like literally, what were we thinking? And then gradually you can see the change happen. I'm not going to tell you what all the secrets are, because
you've got to keep some secrets.
I've got to keep some secrets. But then, I mean, and again, honestly, I genuinely don't know how. Well, I know how, sort of. But we won Pub of the Year 2018. So that was our first year, and we got voted the best Sunday lunch in the Northeast, and Pub of the Year with the Sunday Sun.
Yeah, that was that with Eddie Eats, or was that a different one?
No, that was Eddie Eats.
Yeah.
I remember, but me and Paul had a great relationship by then. Were you working? You would have been, like 16, would you?
Yeah, I think so. 2018 summertime, so I would have been 16. Just literally started it.
And I think that's another thing, like how, like, it's all to do with the people that you've got in the business, and so many people are just have like a rocket up the arse where they just want to like go out and hire the best people and say, oh no, you need to be able to do this, you need to be able to do that, you need to be able to do this. I mean, you at the time, you genuinely wouldn't want to speak to anybody, did you? You were like, not really. You were like dead shy.
On my first day when I came in, because my sister asked us like, oh, if you want to come in and collect some glasses, because it was like absolutely huge.
I remember that day, and you were just all over the shop. But you grafted so hard. And I just remember you being dead shy. I'm sure I spoke to you as well.
Yeah, because it was like in the staff room. So like when they were like, "Oh, put your stuff in the staff room where the old fridge is now."
What a dump that was.
When you were in there, I remember I came in and you were just sat there, and I was like, "Hello." It's just like I didn't know what to say or anything. I was just so like nervous.
I remember. So going back to that, I mean, so like getting the right people involved in your business, but you've got to absolutely take chances on. Well, not take chances, but because
allow them the time to sort of develop.
Yeah, like you're not taking chances. You're just saying, do you know what it is? Yeah, I'm definitely going to give you an opportunity to get on and have your first job. Can you remember Bradley?
Yeah.
Like Bradley, honestly, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, he turned up to his job interview in a full 3-piece suit. Like, he had like a funeral director's jacket on. You know, like such a pleasant, like...
He was such a nice person.
Yeah, but I remember the pub, we were still decorating the pub, so he was one of the first people that were hired, but again, he was only 17. He never worked in a pub before. He was from Wickham High School, never worked in a pub. And the fact that he turned up in a suit and he was so polite and so pleasant, I was like, do you know what it is? He needs a job. Like, he needs to come on. And then we'll give him a job, and I don't know if you remember, but he like a couple of times he'd spilled drinks over somebody. You know, he didn't do it once, he did it like twice.
It was like sort of a common occurrence.
Yeah, and like, but he was just nervous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And them nerves went eventually. You know, I remember we used to sit down and it'd be like, what are you nervous about? But he just wanted to do well. You know, like he genuinely wanted to do well. So eventually, I mean. He then left. By the time he left to go to university, he's like head waiter or something in a cocktail bar in York now.
Yeah, or something like that. I seen. It was,
Like just dead
crazy.
popular. Do you know what I mean? So like you've got to let people make mistakes and
Yeah, give them enough sort of space in which they can grow, rather than just sort of let them like say, oh, you do this, for just literally just box them in this certain role. You can like, sort of give them that space and be like, oh, so you're collecting glasses and stuff like that. But the way in which you can do that is so many different ways. It's not as if you collect glasses this way and you don't speak to customers whatsoever. It's just I don't know where I'm going off this, but
well, because obviously you're similar to what happened with Bradley, aren't you? So in terms of you starting young, and then now like being here for so long.
Yeah.
I think you were working. I mean, you went from collecting the glasses to being on the floor within not very long.
I know, because I think it was like my second, because I only came in for the day because she was like, oh, we need a hand and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, go on then. Like, just get 20 quid or something like that. And then I think it was on the following Monday.
Not cash in hand, by the way. Not 20 quid cash in hand. It was through the books.
Proper stuff. But then it was on the following Monday when Ricky was just like, alright, so you were collecting glasses and then what else can you do? And I just went, anything. I remember just being so nervous and I just went, anything, like proper stuttering and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he just had us doing anything and everything.
Where now you're like number one mentioned guy on TripAdvisor and any review. It's like, well, to be fair, Nathan's getting good reviews.
I know Nathan's getting on there. Like
Nathan's been getting mentioned recently, probably more than you. So you need to pick your game up.
Yeah, step up. But then, so one thing that I wanted to ask as well, why did you end up picking the Woodmans? Like, so why was this place like the first initial out of all the places that you could have probably picked? Why this place?
Just because it was like it was a drive-to venue, so it had its own like in my mind. It was like always. There's so many great venues out there where they'll be at a busy set of traffic lights, and you'll always look, but you never stop. For some reason, you never stop. Like. It's just because it's busy, you think, do you know what I mean? Like, we'll not pull in there or whatever. So it always had to be a drive-to venue where you could just make that extra bit special.
Yeah,
so it was
where
all
it would
about
be like a place to go rather than a place where we just pop in when you run past.
Yeah, so like a bit destination dining, we'll call it. So it's like you work hard on your Sunday lunch, which we did. We accomplished in the first year with the Eddie Eats Award, and then you just hope that you can get them numbers up, and then people who come and try your Sunday lunch, they then come and try on another day.
Yeah,
but they love to come and visit you and drive out. I mean, we do 600 Sunday lunches now on a Sunday.
Yeah, like
considering where we are, and we haven't got anything else. We're not a wedding venue yet, but we're not. Do you know what I mean? We're literally just a pub on a country road.
It's just weird to think that literally with us being in the middle, it's sort of essentially in the middle of nowhere, but the amount of people, like the amount of traffic that just comes by, and the amount of people who come in and genuinely just love this place, it's just crazy considering, like, if you just think about where we are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but everybody's to blame for that, and blame is a good blame, you know. So like the staff for being so pleasant the way that they are, and hard work in the way that they are, and attentive, and then you've got Paul, the head chef, who obviously knows how to run a kitchen, is organised, and he knows how to be consistent.
Yeah.
Little things that Paul knows. It's like I mean, the amount of mad ideas I've come up with, and it's like some of them he'll just point blank say, no, we're not doing that, because he knows for a fact
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But there's been so many occasions where he's like thought, do you know what it is? I'm going to teach Chris a lesson, but not in a. I'm going to teach Chris a lesson in a bad way. He's like trying to show us why certain things work and why certain things don't
sort
work.
of to get behind his way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So we've got that. So we've got the staff, we've got Paul, and obviously all the other chefs that have grafted hard. And then I think my just laid back mentality.
I was going to mention that actually. Sort of the way that our the staff sort of operate here is a lot different than when you go into any other place, because it's when you ever go into any other place, it's sort of the same. It's always the same structure, and you always go in and expecting it. It's just like, it's very just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, oh, what drinks can I get you? Once they've done that, then they just go. They don't have any sort of like input on that. Like the waiters will just be like, or the waiters and waitresses, sorry, or just genuinely like just sort of take the order, go, or like sort of take the order, go, and then when they're clear, go. Whereas like here, like you can genuinely see where people have like conversations and stuff like that, where it's like people will be like talking about drinks and stuff like that, and when like say, even if it's just as simple as like say when someone orders a gin, but oh, is that a double or a single, and the customer will go double, and then the waitresses will be like, oh, why not, it's Friday after all, and stuff like that. Just a little sort of remark like that is something that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, so I think it's goes back to building that brand, you know, so like building that brand where people have to trust what you do, the staff have to trust what you do, because if they don't trust you, the customers aren't going to trust you, and then you have that loyalty, you know. So then when times are tough, like the coronavirus, what's just happened or what's happening, you know, like people come out and support you. People come out and they think, yeah, that's where I want to go and eat. I trust that brand. I want to go and associate myself with that brand. Look at Instagram, how many people associate with that brand and want to be associated with that brand. Like that's just testament to how hard everybody else has worked. You know, it's testament to the, like I say, the staff, the chef, and everybody's input that goes in. Like another example, I mean, this guy, when I was running Viva, honestly, he's called Adam Sneller, right? There was, out of nowhere, Viva Then Home started trending as a hashtag in Shields. So basically, people would just go out, go to Viva, and the slogan's Viva Then Home. So that started trending. And like, he went off to Ibiza, or wherever it was, Magaluf, and he got hashtag Viva Then Home tattooed on his leg. So we'd just out of trying to do the right thing. Yes, it wasn't high end quality, but the principles of doing the right thing and looking after, you know, like now we know them as like Instagram influencers, but before Instagram and influencers really existed back then, not like miles back then, but when it was, like, I used to just give away loads of stuff to the popular people and people who would like come all the time, you know, like loyal customers. I would just say, yeah, have this for free, you're in all the time, like, and just reward people, not as a like, you give me something, I'll give you something type thing, just like
not as a transaction, but more so just being like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Like, your class, thanks for coming in. Yeah, there's some drink, go and enjoy yourself. So I remember Adam, when he got this tattoo, I literally messaged him and said, Adam, do you know what it is? You can have, because everybody took pictures of it. It went like viral in South Shields, so to speak. So then I remember just messaging Adam and saying, Adam, do you know what it is? You can have drinks for free for the rest of your life, for as long as I'm running Viva. So then every weekend, Adam used to just come out with his mates, but he's a big tall lad, so like his head just pops above everybody else. But Viva used to be so busy. He used to just walk through the crowd and he'd look us out on the bar, and he used to just stick his hand up like that. So because everybody used to just drink trebles and bombs, he used to just put his hand up as if to say, I want 4. And then I used to just make him 4 and give them it. And then he would just go, come back to the bar, he'd just go 2. And then I'd just make them and give them it. But for him, like, what a great little... Do you know what I mean? Like, just something so insignificant, but do you know what I mean? Just go out and have some fun. Like, there's nothing serious at all about me giving him free drinks. He's got a tattoo. The tattoo's still there. I was at a charity cricket event on Sunday and I seen him, and he's still got the tattoo still there. Pulled his leg up and he went, are you fucking planning on opening Viva back up anytime soon? Because the tattoo's still here. So in terms of building up the brand, like little things like that, I mean, isn't it mental? Even on a large scale, people get like Harley Davidson tattooed on their arm. Do you know what I mean? It's just a brand. Yeah, it's just a name. Just
a company which sells motorbikes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, if all of it just boils down to the simplest of concepts, but people get so like ingrained and so like attached to these certain companies doing this certain stuff.
Yeah, so it's just like everybody bought into that brand and then just trying to use those principles that were learned. So like from Master Debonair, from like caring about your business and always just doing the right thing, like keeping on top of as many things as possible and improve it all the time. How can we make that better? How can we make that better? Don't get us wrong, so many things like happen in a bad way, you know, like you feel like you've hit a speed bump where a customer might say negative things about you in public and they might try and like shoot you down. That's absolutely fine, it's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, we know that our best interests are to make this a better business, you know.
Yeah.
But it isn't always. Unfortunately, you can't make everybody happy all of the time, and things are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
But as long as we know that we're always trying to do the right thing, but sometimes you just can't always do that, and you just have to accept that. But
Yeah.
as long as we just keep asking ourselves, how can we make that better? How can we make that better?
Like, how can we avoid this happening again, or something like that, if something does go
Yeah,
wrong?
well, I mean, you'll know how many times there'll be times where you think, do you know what it is? Them customers were great, like I interacted with them really well, and then there'll be other times where you think, oh, it was difficult to talk to them.
Yeah.
You know, it was difficult to get something out of them, or they didn't seem interested. They just want to,
They just literally want to eat, just go.
which is fine, you know. So if you from the customer's point of view, they're going in there think, right, well, I want to feel special. It's all about what the customer wants, which is what we're there to do. But at the same time, coming from a restaurant's point of view, is like how many different variables there is that we have to try and work out before the customers even sat down, you know. So other there, like, as a one-off, is it a casual meal or is it a special meal? You know, like, do they want to interact with them? Don't they want to interact with them?
And then even then you've got to work out the boundaries in which, like, you can sort of what you can say, but you can't, and like where you can really go with the conversations.
Yeah, like, do they want you to be dead posh in terms of just be minimalistic and say blah blah blah, or do they want you to be human and be yourself?
Chatty and just literally over the top, enthusiastic, or like laid back and stuff like that.
So all those things you have to try and work out, and then that's why I think it's a great first job for anybody to go and work in a restaurant.
Definitely. I think it gives you a real good insight into just humans in general, and how many different, like, sort of
Personalities.
Yeah, how many different personalities, and how you can sort of not appease them in a way, but sort of like, because at the end of the day you want them going out sort of thinking as if they've had like a really good experience, feeling as if they had a really good experience, and like, no matter who you are, like, sort of each person's view of a good experience is different to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all down to sort of individual sort of perspective, really, and you've got to try and match that and give them a good service whilst giving this person a good service, who both of their ideas could be completely different.
Yeah.
Like, one could be like over the top chatty, talking about like sort of like dogs and stuff like that, and then the other person could literally just be like, they don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got to try and like sort of find the balance and appease the two.
Well, I mean, somebody actually complained. If you think, I mean, it's genuinely, and I say this with real emphasis, it's genuinely hard doing what we're doing for the numbers that we're doing, you know, and like, but it is hard. It's hard keeping all the staff going, and when it's, well, you know, and when you're working hard, so like managing that expectation. So before, people used to come to the Woodmans Arms and be like, oh, well, what is the Woodmans Arms?
Yeah.
You know, they're a bit curious. Whereas now, people have seen it, they've heard good things about it, so they're coming and they're expecting it. You know, like, before, we might have got away with certain things in terms of if somebody did leave upset, they'd be like, oh, well, they're new, you know, we'll let them off, we'll give them a second chance. Where now people are coming, it's like, right, it's good, I'm expecting it to be good, and if it isn't good, I'm going to let you know about it, which is absolutely fine. But again, that makes it like we have to then step our game up. I mean, some woman the other day complained that we wouldn't cook chicken and sausages for a dog. You know, so like managing that expectation, like, where do you draw the line in what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable to ask from a restaurant? I mean, we did have dog treats on the bar, but we had to take them off because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I think it's such an odd review where it's like, or such an odd sort of like complaint, because at that point, where do you draw the line? It's like when someone says, oh, well, I see that you do chicken nuggets, I see that you do mash, I see that you do like sort of mushy peas, can I have them all in one?
So like going back to what were foundations of trying to go off and be successful, it's all about the process. So the process is, can you do it once? But that same process, if you need to do it 600 times, can you do it 600 times?
Yeah.
You know, so if you're gonna do your chicken and your sausages for the dog once, are you gonna do it for all the other dogs that come in? You know, so where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Or my friend came down, brought the dog. She got chicken and sausages.
Yeah, then at that point,
My
they've
dog
all
wants
got-
a hot mother clucker. You know, so where do you draw the line? Like, if you said to the dog, look, you can't get your chicken and sausages, so go and leave your own review, that would be fine. Do you know what I mean? Because the dog cannot type.
Yeah.
Do you know
even
what I
then,
mean?
the dog probably wouldn't even have known the difference whether it was.
Exactly.
Wouldn't even have known that I was getting chicken or chicken and sausages.
Would the dog leave thing? Oh, fuck me, I didn't like the Woodmans Arms. I didn't
give
get
me
me chicken and sausage.
Chicken and sausages and a dog bowl filled with meringue.
Exactly. So it's like, where do you draw the line on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable?
Yeah.
So our plan is obviously, but again, going back to managing expectations, everybody has different expectations of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people say, oh, it's an average pub at best. Some people don't even like it. You know, like they don't like the Woodmans Arms, they don't like coming. Again, that's absolutely fine. Like, we can only do what we're in control of, and that is ultimately try and be as best as what we think we can be, and then strive to be better.
Yeah.
So I mean, but then on the other hand, loads of people love it. You know, like loads of people like get excited about it, which is great.
Like there's people who genuinely travel from all over just to come here.
Well, I was talking to a girl from Whitley. I mean, Whitley Bay doesn't sound far from here, but it's a decent drive.
Oh, it's a good trek for some food, like just to go to a pub for some food.
She got a taxi over. She was like,
crazy.
I need to get a taxi back. So I give her. I think she was on the shots by this point, so I give her a free shot. But yeah. So in terms of the Woodmans, I think it's going well. No. Thanks to you, obviously, people like you who have obviously worked so hard over the past couple of years. And we don't. I mean, again, there's other examples of people like you. You know, I've got like LEH, been here a long time, Maddie. You know, all these people started off as runners and they've ended up on the floor, and now they just boss it on the floor.
Yeah, and absolutely, just literally, like you can walk in, you can just see them absolutely like trying the best and just doing like about 4 different things at once. It's like even on the till, there's always like a massive line of people, and they're just like, oh, you're in the queue for the till and stuff like that. But even then, it's like when we were going past, we'll be like, oh, can I just grab the bill for this table? Whilst they're putting on a massive order of like about 10 fillet steaks, all cooked within like different ways and stuff like that, with different sauces and whatnot. Then they're like, oh, can you cash this off? Can you pass us this? And everyone's like, even though like they're super busy and stuff, even in their own thing, everyone likes to pull together and help each other out. Yeah. Which I just think it's an absolutely amazing sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think again, it's just having that balance between, well, just having the right people, isn't it? And I think anybody, it's weird reflecting, because you never really I never really sit back and reflect and think,
think about all
all the different tiny things, because I think you could talk for hours and hours and hours about everything. But in terms of, obviously how the Woodmans is going, I think it's going really well. We've just got our license through for the wedding venue, so we're going to be, it's already getting built at the minute, so we just need, it's an exciting step for the future.
Yeah, it'll be exciting, to be fair, because then that just sort of sets it in stone. This is like sort of just a massive place for like just for Gateshead in general, just for the area. Yeah, it's literally just like a massive. I don't know. The way I just explain it is that's just a massive, big step.
Well, it's just, well, I tend not to just think about it. I'm just happy that I get to wake up, and go to work. You know, and like that's a privilege in itself, being able to go to work. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I get a wage out of it. That's absolutely fine. Everybody else has got a job within our company, and that's great as well. Yeah. Which probably I get more joy out of employing people than I do anything else, really. Yeah. And then another thing that I want to talk about was sort of how you've developed, like, sort of as a person over the past sort of, over your like sort of lifespan of, over the lifespan of the Woodmans, because I imagine sort of when you were going into it, or even like sort of before, like Chris when he was in like the University of Sunderland doing sports, probably didn't think the same way that you think now, because I seen that like recently you put on a like sort of a Facebook post, and it was talking about how can businesses expect the staff to give it 100% and give it the all and stuff working for them when during sort of the quarantine, sort of the coronavirus period, when it flipped and the employees had to sort of lean on the business for a bit, they all just dropped them and just sort of like sacked them or like made them redundant and stuff like that. Yeah, well, I just think in terms of, so to answer your first question, 100% I'm not the same person I am now as what I was before. But I think the experience is just dealing with emotions. That's the biggest thing you learn is just to deal with your emotions, because like for some reason nobody actually tells you that you're in control of your emotions. Do you know what I mean? Like we all just plod on thinking that we don't have control over how we feel, but we do. Like, and I always say to people, like, if you understand that you're in control how you feel, and things on the outside of your body, I've said it before, but things on the outside of your body, you get to decide how you feel about it. And like people are used to just instantly reacting to something, and that's why they feel like they don't have any control. So something might happen and they instantly react, so they think, oh, I've got no control here. But if you wake up and you're conscious to the fact you have control, like, your mind just becomes so much more clear. You see things differently. You know, like something that might happen. So, for instance, if two people came in here now and like started fighting, like, you would react differently to me. I would probably look at it and watch it and be calm, you know, and just see how it transpired, and then I would probably say, lads, what you's fighting for? You know, try and get to the bottom of it. I mean, that's probably not a good example, but you have a choice on how things want to make you feel. I mean, you must have done some reading on emotions and stuff like that.
I have like sort of an idea of it, and just different stuff that I've read have mentioned things. But I think a nice analogy to like sort of, I think this will sort of go nice with what you were saying. It's like you don't have a choice over like the cards that you dealt, but how you play them is entirely up to you. Yeah. It's like, say, in a game of poker, like, you don't get a choice over whether you've got good cards, bad cards, or anything like that, but the way that you sort of play them, and how it's even sort of bluffing you and pretend that you've got like bad ones when you've got amazing ones and stuff like that. But like, even then, like, that's just like sort of the way that you can manage them, but ultimately you don't get a choice.
Of the cards that you dealt?
So you don't get a choice of the situations that you're thrown into, but the way that you deal with them,
well,
is entirely up to you.
I always say to people who are like struggling with dealing with the emotions is, like, emotion is just energy in motion. That's where it comes from. So by energy, that means something physically is happening in your body when you're feeling the way you're feeling. And you've triggered that feeling. You've decided to feel that way, you know. You've decided to set that energy off in motion around your body, and I always say that if you've got £1 worth of emotions every single day inside your body, because it isn't free, so energy isn't free. You have to eat food, you know, to get energy. So when you're spending your emotions on things, like, you can decide where you want to spend that money. And if something's bad or negative, or it's making you feel a horrible way, or it's making you feel anxious, there's two things you can do. You can either stay in that environment and think, right, I can deal with this. I'm in control here. That isn't making me sad anymore, so I'm in control. That's not making me upset, and it's not making us anxious. So you're conscious of how you're feeling, and you're well aware that you're not spending any of your £1 emotions, your daily £1 emotions, on those bad things or whatever it is that's happening. So that's the first thing you can do: stay in the environment and be in control. And the second thing you can do is, if you feel like you can't control it, which you can, but you might not be at that point of realization you can actually control it, you just need to take yourself out of that environment. Whatever that environment is, or wherever it is. So many times it happens to me. You can be in a room with a powerful person or a negative person, and if they're just shouting about something and saying, "Oh, this is crap, it's horrible, it's awful, it's rubbish," you know, like, even if you consciously think that you're not listening to them and saying, "I'm not taking any of this in," their negative tone is genuinely having an effect on how you feel, and you may not be aware of it. But if you surround yourself with people who just talk negatively and act negatively and just shout at everything they do, and they talk things down, well, this is crap, that's crap, like, you'll feel that. Do you know what I mean? So you need to just take yourself out of the environment, or just Like, if just look at them and just think, you need to just shut off
And
whatever.
just like sort of consciously think, is what they're doing positive, negative, or just neutral?
Well, I just think you don't even have to you don't have to think what they're doing is your body. You don't have to think what is their gain. You know, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral, because you already know deep down inside.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I was to shout at you now, you wouldn't have to think, whoa,
Yeah.
is that positive, negative, or neutral? You would just instantly know, I feel uncomfortable here, you know. But would you be aware enough to know that you can actually control how it makes you feel? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, like, if I started shouting at you now, saying, Aaron, you shit, you this, you that, in a serious tone, would you be aware enough to think, you crack on, Chris, in your own mind?
Yeah, when you say it, but like...
But it's not having an effect on, because it's a difficult thing to do. You know, like when I'm refereeing, you know, because there's loads of things going on. Like, I think that I'm in control, and I am sort of 90% of the time. You know, like, players will shout at us, doesn't bother us. You know, what you say doesn't affect me because I'm in control. But if you consciously if your mind just slips elsewhere, and you're thinking about something else, and then somebody catches you off guard, and they say, you, referee, you're a cheat, or you're this, you're that, then sometimes it does, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and then that's when you start to feel it again, when you know that 90% of the time, if you're in control, instead of being 100% not in control, 100% of the time not in control, like, you go from, it's just like a sliding bar, isn't it? Like, hopefully you get like, you start off with being in control 10% of the time. So that might be, for instance, things that you might be, do you know, like little things, like just tiny little conversations with people where you might normally feel awkward.
Yeah.
You know, so being a bit more confident when you're speaking to people. Like, in my eyes, nothing is awkward, because awkward is just your perception of an event that is going to take place. So it's only awkward because you're trying to preempt something that hasn't happened already. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to a job interview, you're worrying about the job interview, but what are you actually worrying about? Because you don't know the outcome.
Yeah, you don't know how it's even going to go whatsoever.
Yes, so...
Or you have an idea, but even then, like, your mind will naturally, like, wander to, like, the worst case scenario, if you let it.
Yeah, so then...
Sort of, like, literally you can be, like, sort of thinking in the job interview, being like, oh, he's going to ask us this question, I'm going to freeze him just so anxious, and be, like, palms are sweating, everything like that, and stuff like that. And if you overthink it in that sort of way, or let your mind wander into that way, it'll naturally go to the worst case scenario to try and prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more proactive for the brain to naturally wander to the worst case scenario and be prepared for it than to go to the best case scenario, and then when they go in and it turns out to be completely different.
Yeah, but then even when it does, so if you're trying to preempt something, but what you're doing is you're attaching an emotion with that image in your head. You know, the story that you're telling yourself in your head, you're actually attaching emotion to what you're preempting. You know, so when we're saying let's get control of those little things, so the awkwardness would be like, well, actually, I don't know what's going to happen. Just keep telling yourself you don't know what's going to happen. You know, if you've got enough power when you say I'm going to get the job, great. But if you don't have the power, or you don't have the realization to think, well, I can think either way. I can either positively say this is going to happen, or I can negatively say, well, I think this is going to happen, and then attach negative emotions to it. So having control of that instance would just be like not trying to preempt what's going to happen.
Yeah,
you know,
and not like sort of attaching this sort of, and not even like sort of thinking about it in a way that it's going to happen like this, because not like, say if you think worst case scenario that a job interview you're not going to get the job and stuff like that, and you sort of go into that believing that and being like, oh, I'm not going to get the job constantly in your mind, then 9 times out of 10 you probably won't get the job. Because you haven't displayed that sort of, or you've been subconsciously acting in a way which brings that to life,
to fruition. Like road rage, if you've got a pound of energy, going back to the pound of energy a day, like, do you really want to consciously spend a pound of energy, or some of that pound, on an absolute stranger in a different metal box on wheels who you've never met before in your life, you're never going to see again before in your life, unless he stops at the next set of traffic lights and gets out and brays you all hour.
At that point, you'll see.
Like, these people, like, it's start by, like, don't react. You know, like, why give them the satisfaction? Why react to something you have no control over?
Yeah.
You're never going to see that person ever again. If they cut you up, so what? They've cut you up. Do you know what I mean? Just take your time. You'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But you don't have to spend any emotion on them, do you?
Yeah.
Like, how is road rage even a thing? Like, it blows me mind.
I think it's just probably a case of people already being angry in that point of view, and then someone's literally just done something that's icing on the cake, and then that's just their outlet.
Yeah,
because
but
it's someone who they've never met before, and they don't have any sort of responsibilities holding them.
But you don't need an outlet if you're consciously aware of the fact that you're in control of your emotions, because you don't have a build up of emotions that you have an outlet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't just, like, you're not like filling up of anger.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just, so if you fill up of anger, does that mean you fill up of happiness? Like, and then you'd have an outburst. What's an outburst of happiness?
Just excitement.
Just like screaming.
But like, to be fair, there's people who, like, when they're really excited and stuff, they'll genuinely, like, shake and, like, tense up.
Yeah, but I think you do. But then you need to not use the energy emotion, but you need to then use body emotion. So, like, for instance, I started the gym again since lockdown last couple of days, and I feel so much better. Do you know what I mean? Like, so much better. I can't describe how much better I feel.
Yeah.
And don't get us wrong, I'm not like a gym freak. I don't go on high weights around. I just go in.
Yeah.
Go on the treadmill, keep my head down. Go on the bike, keep my head down. Lift a couple of 10s about, a couple of 9.5s. But you just feel so much better, just a little bit of exercise. And even me, sometimes you can try and overthink exercise. You can overthink, oh, I need a plan.
Yeah.
I need this. I need that.
You spend too much, but then ends up you just spend too much time trying to design the perfect training plan, when in reality you've just spent a week not training because you were waiting, because you were planning this next big massive one.
Yeah, or worrying what you're doing isn't suffice. But at the end of the day, just going out and doing 20 minutes of exercise in the gym. I think I did 35 minutes this morning, and like, that's it. I'm happy with that. You know, just be content.
Yeah.
So that was me little rant on emotion.
So then where we left off there. So then now it, like, sort of, that takes us nicely just to sort of now. And then you've recently opened up the Mill House, which is a new sort of joint, like, the sister venue of the Woodmans.
Well, I don't like saying the sister venue, because it's
Or is it just completely different, but it shares the same sort of...
Yeah, so, like, we want to try and apply the same principles, but not... They both need to stand alone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they both need to be... Anybody who comes in and the customers can work out, oh, well, this is the same people who have got the Woodmans Arms. That's fine, but for new customers who don't know who the Woodmans Arms are and don't know who the Mill House is, they need to, like, see us as independent.
Yeah.
So again,
it's just owned by the same company rather than being enjoined or entwined in each other.
Yeah. So again, like, when you think, oh, you're going to open up your business and things get easier, well, they don't. You're just faced with different problems, you know. So the problems we'll have now is how do you keep the quality of the Woodmans and grow another business and try and establish two businesses, because the Woodmans are still growing all the time, you know, and we're still trying to improve that all the time. But then now you've got another venue to try and push and promote and get right, you know. So it's like different kind of headaches.
Yeah.
But it's exciting and I love it. Like, I think that's why anybody who wants to get into business, like, you should just crack on and do it. Don't be scared of nothing.
Yeah. And then that actually takes us to the next point. I was just going to ask if there's any advice for someone who's sort of on the fence about starting their own business, or just sort of going for it, or even sort of trying to build something sort of similar to the Woodmans in the sort of the restaurant industry and whatnot. What advice, or just general sort of things that you would say to them?
Well, advice is you have to obviously know what you're doing in terms of, like, you need to love what you're doing. You don't need to know what you're doing, because I didn't have a clue. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Starting the Woodmans, I didn't have a clue. Like, I genuinely did not have a clue. I had restaurant experience, managing experience, but I didn't have any experience of running my own business.
Yeah.
You know, so don't be scared. Just go out and, like, at the end of the day, HMRC has set up limited companies so that you're not personally liable for anything, you know. Like, you go out, and it's a bit of a risk by, you might not earn some money straight away from your business that you set up, but, like, you need to go out and just put yourself forward. So as long as you love what you're doing, the rest you'll just work out along the way.
Yeah.
And just have a core ethos, you know. So, like, our ethos is just love what we do. So as long as we love what we do, all that'll just help us with any other decisions that we make, you know. So, and it genuinely has.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if you have that sort of core ethos or that primary aim in a way, sort of you can check any decision that comes across, you can check it against that and be like, if it's like sort of Mark Manson does this, and I think it was Mark Manson anyway, who he has.
He's not related to Marilyn Manson, is he?
No. But he has this nice way of putting it where it's like he makes his decisions based on if it's a fuck yes, then he'll go for it, but if it's not, then he won't at all.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not sort of like something that you can really get behind, then he just doesn't bother with it.
Yeah.
Or, like, he'll just sort of be like, no, actually, it's not for me.
Yeah, which is obviously that's what you have to do, and just because you've got to see everything through at the end. So anybody who's wants to start a business, like, make sure you, like, I mean, you plan financially. Don't just think, oh, I want to go and start a business doing this, and then you haven't planned it. You know, you have to plan what you're going to do, but at the end of the day, don't be worried if you don't know the answer to everything.
Yeah, and if there's no, like, clear step in what's next in the plan and stuff like that, just sort of go along with it. But as long as you have, like, as long as you sort of know vaguely what you're doing. Yeah,
and then you work the rest out on the way. You know, I mean, once, I think we at one point we had 3 menus at the Woodmans Arms, like one for inside, one for outside, and one for in the bar.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
Aye, exactly. What a shit show that was when we'd done that. But it's a learning curve, you know. So, like, you learn and you move on, you crack on. That's it.
Yeah.
But in terms of where we want to go forward, we want to just keep opening up restaurants, not like a chain, so not like a Wetherspoons where you're doing one thing and you roll it out nationally, but like just using our ethos and apply it to different type of venues. You know, we want to open up a fish restaurant, and then we want to open up a different kind of bar, but as long as, because you need people in those venues need to have responsibility to make their own choices and make changes. So, like, for instance, certain dishes on the menu set up a different way
because of, like, sort of where it's at and the people who go to there. And
that's why I think it's important having an ethos, because when you're applying that in different venues, because the product's different or the style's different, you need something that brings it all back together.
Yeah, and a clear point of sort of a set of, like, sort of not a set of rules, but sort of a set of just guidelines in which everything else operates from.
Yeah, well, I think
it's like the sort of the big trunk of the tree in which everything grows from.
Yeah, which I think the staff just look and go, well, would Chris do this or would Chris not do this?
It's like, what I yeah.
And hopefully I think people know what I would do and what I wouldn't do now, you know, and what I would say yes to and what I would say no to.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the customer, I always remember Fred Siri X, the one off air.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Customer is king, you know, he's dead right. And if it's like, if they're at the centre of everything that you do, you'll be successful. Which I'd like to think the Woodmans Arms is on that path to being successful.
Yeah.
If we're not already.
I was going to say, we're already halfway there, man.
Hopefully.
But yeah, that's all. We're going to talk about future plans, but I think you just sort of answered it there, where you wanted to talk, like, open more venues and stuff like that.
No, that's good. Well, if we just end it there. No, so that's good. Right, we'll have to crack on and go.
Right now, I was going to say.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. If you did enjoy the episode, please share it with a friend or two. It would help me out massively. Also, don't forget, if you do have any feedback or ideas for future guests, please drop me a message via any of the social media platforms listed in the show notes, or drop a comment on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. But that's all for now. Have a great day, night or morning, depending on wherever you're listening or watching this. Talk to you all next week.